Picture a completely mundane Walgreens parking lot on Christmas Day.
Right, just totally normal.
Yeah, exactly. 38-year-old mother is sitting in her car with her 5 young children.
Oh.
And for a moment, it looks like just another family running a frantic, last-minute holiday errand.
Just people going about their day.
Exactly. But then she casually steps out, walks up to the car, parked right next to her, and just fires a handgun 5 times through the window.
God, it's just so sudden.
It really is. Welcome to today's Deep Dive, where we are taking you into a moment where the comforting rhythm of normal life completely shattered.
Yeah, it's a heavy one today.
It is. We have a great stack of source material for you today, mostly centered around this gripping true crime analysis by the YouTube channel Red Tree Crime. The video is titled, Walgreens Killer Realizes She's Never Going Home.
It's a fascinating breakdown.
It really is. And our mission for you today isn't just to, recount the facts of a tragedy. We want to explore the chilling, intricate anatomy of a police interrogation. We're going to examine exactly how skilled investigators systematically dismantle a suspect's carefully constructed narrative, just to uncover the truth.
Because, what happens in that sterile interrogation room isn't just a simple Q&A session.
Right.
It is this highly structured, high-stakes psychological trap. It relies on very specific behavioral frameworks to get someone who is highly motivated to lie to ultimately just hand over the truth.
But to really understand the psychology of the interrogation, we kind of have to start with the sheer chaos that put this woman, Amanda Janszen, into that room in the first place.
Yeah, the physical scene is important here.
Let's set it up for you. So it's Christmas Day. Amanda fires those 5 shots into the adjacent vehicle. Inside that second car are a man and a woman, and both of them are struck by the bullets.
It's just this explosion of sudden, lethal violence in an environment where people generally feel entirely safe.
And the chaos immediately spills outward. Amanda doesn't just stand there. She immediately runs back to her car, gets in with her 5 kids, and just hits the gas to flee the scene.
Total panic response.
Yeah. And as she speeds out of the parking lot, her car violently collides with a parked truck.
Wow.
And get this, inside that truck is a couple who had just been sitting there. And this detail from the witness testimony is absolutely wild to me.
Oh, yeah, the sound, right?
Yes. The couple in the truck describe hearing the 5 shots, pow, 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 but their brains couldn't initially process it as gunfire. One of them actually told police, that's the sound of a clock to me.
That detail is such a perfect example of how auditory processing works under sudden cognitive dissonance.
Really? How so?
Well, you see, your brain is essentially a prediction machine. When you are sitting in a Walgreens parking lot on a holiday, your brain totally lacks the active neural pathways to process a concept like lethal gunfire.
Because it's a low-threat environment.
Exactly. So the brain essentially rejects the reality of the sound. It hastily scrambles to match that POW sound to the closest non-lethal file it has in its cabinet.
Like a ticking clock.
Or maybe a backfiring engine or a firecracker. It's a defense mechanism, really, to protect you from immediate panic. Because the reality of a shooting in that specific context is just too incomprehensible to process in real time.
It's like a movie scene violently crashing into real life. You're sitting in your truck, going about your day, and suddenly the genre of your reality switches to an action thriller without your permission.
That's a great way to put it.
So the couple realizes what's happening. They see Amanda's white vehicle speeding away, and she actually sideswipes their truck on her way out. They noted later they were so lucky they were pulled out just enough that only their bumper was hit. It just left white paint scraped all over it.
And while that collision is happening, the police are already receiving the description of her vehicle. So the physical danger is escalating rapidly.
Because Amanda refuses to pull over when they spot her.
Right. She actually initiates a high-speed chase with law enforcement.
With her 5 kids still sitting in the back seat.
Which is just the absolute nightmare scenario for law enforcement. They have a known active shooter fleeing at high speeds, and they know there are 5 completely innocent, vulnerable children trapped inside this moving weapon.
It's terrifying. But the police eventually manage to force her vehicle off the road. They surround the car, order Amanda out, and she is placed under arrest.
And the crucial, massive relief in all of this, all 5 children were physically uninjured.
Thank goodness. They were immediately taken to safety, and Amanda is transported to the police station. So the physical chase is over.
Right. But, the adrenaline of a 100-mile-per-hour chase forces the human brain into pure survival mode. And when detectives place Amanda in that sterile, silent interrogation room, that physical adrenaline suddenly has nowhere to go.
Which leaves her vulnerable.
Completely vulnerable to the psychological phase in the investigation.
And the detectives don't just walk right in. They actually make her wait in that room alone. Why did they do that? I know it's a TV trope, but what is the actual mechanism at play when you leave a suspect in an empty room?
It's a deliberate pressure cooker. Isolation builds anxiety.
Yeah.
When a suspect is left alone with their thoughts after a massive adrenaline spike, they begin to hyperfixate on their own alibi. They rehearse their lies over and over in their head.
Trying to get the story straight.
Exactly. By the time the detectives actually walk in, the suspect has already exhausted a massive amount of their own cognitive load just trying to keep their fabricated story straight.
That makes so much sense. Meanwhile, the detectives are outside gathering the actual facts. The female victim from the parking lot, Anna Terrell, has tragically passed away at the hospital.
Such a tragedy.
And the male victim, Thomas Williams, he survives his injuries and is actually expected to make a full recovery. And Thomas is able to fill the police in on the background. So Thomas is Amanda's ex-boyfriend.
Right, the father of her child.
Yes, they have an 11-month-old daughter together. And Anna, the woman who passed away, was Thomas's new girlfriend.
And the critical context for the violence here, Thomas had recently won 50-50 custody of their baby. Yeah. The entire reason they were all at that Walgreens on Christmas Day was for a court-ordered custody exchange.
So the detectives finally step into the room with Amanda. Now, you might expect someone who just led police on a high-speed chase after a fatal shooting to be totally silent, right?
Yeah.
Or immediately demanding a lawyer.
You would think so.
But Amanda starts talking. She immediately starts spinning a narrative, painting herself entirely as a protective mother and a victim of terrible circumstance.
In criminal psychology, this is known as victim stance projection, and it's often combined with a tactic called minimization.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, suspects who commit violent acts rarely view themselves as the villain. To bridge the massive gap between their self-image as a good person and the violent act they just committed, they have to project all the blame outward.
They want to control the story.
Exactly. They want to be the one to define the context before the police can.
And her context is incredibly heavy. She claims that when she was homeless, Thomas took advantage of her. She alleges severe physical abuse, saying he beat her when he found out she was pregnant because she refused to have an abortion.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. She talks about the conditions at his home, claiming he has no running water, that there are electrical wires hanging out everywhere. She even brings his mother into it.
Oh yeah, the story about the baby.
Right. Claiming his mother once left a 3-month-old baby hanging off a bed while she went to the hospital and then walked in laughing about it.
And she doesn't stop with Thomas and his family. She directs a significant amount of vitriol at the victim, Anna.
Yeah. She claims Anna and Thomas plotted from day one to take her kids away. She says Anna used her own handwriting on the caseworker's paperwork to forge documents against her.
Just layering on the accusations.
She even calls Anna a female narcissist, adding this bizarre psychological diagnosis where she claims Anna fears her own female child because she thinks her daughter is out to harm her.
It is a dense, chaotic flood of personal grievances.
Which makes me want to push back here, or at least ask you a critical question as an investigator. How do detectives navigate these deep, messy personal grievances?
It's tough.
Like, Amanda's throwing out some very severe abuse and neglect allegations here. Should detectives take these claims at face value during a fresh homicide investigation, or do they just treat it as noise?
That is one of the hardest tightropes an investigator has to walk. When a suspect is sitting across from you alleging domestic abuse, you cannot completely ignore it because those allegations might be entirely real.
Right, you have to take that seriously.
You do. However, the detective's primary mission in that moment is investigating the homicide that just occurred an hour ago, so they listen impassively.
Just letting her talk.
Yes. Because here is the psychological trick. While Amanda thinks she is justifying her actions and explaining why she is the victim, she is actually handing the detectives her motive on a silver platter.
Wow! So she thinks she's building this bulletproof defense, but she's actually laying the foundation for the prosecution's case.
Precisely. By airing all these grievances, she is establishing a deep-seated hatred, a long history of conflict, and a clear, articulated reason for why she would want to harm these specific people.
It makes total sense when you lay it out like that.
But here is the catch for the police. Motive only tells investigators why something happened. It explains the bad blood. Motive alone doesn't dictate the severity of the criminal charge. To put Amanda away for first-degree murder, the detectives don't just need motive. They need to prove intent. They need to prove premeditation.
And that leads to a subtle but massive shift in the interrogation. We're moving from the why to the how. The detectives start trying to subtly box Amanda in.
They do?
They spend nearly an hour just trying to get her to admit that she was jealous of Anna, or that she resented her presence in Thomas's life.
It's a brilliant strategy to test her emotional state. If they can get her to admit to harboring intense, simmering jealousy, it bridges the gap between passive victimhood and active, calculated aggression.
But Amanda is incredibly stubborn. I mean, she repeatedly insists she does not care about their relationship.
Yeah.
She tells the detectives, I do not care about their relationship. I never have. I care about the well-beings of my child.
Over and over again.
Over and over. She tries to portray this cold, detached indifference. But then she slips up.
She does. The detective gently presses her, just asking if it bothered her even a little bit, if she ever had feelings for Thomas. And Amanda replies, I did grow to love him even though he did that, which is natural to me.
It completely contradicts her cold indifference. She did care. There were deep feelings involved. But I want to bring you, the listener, right into the room for a second.
Put yourself in the detective's shoes.
Exactly. Imagine you are the detective sitting across from her. You are listening to her play the victim, talking in circles about her feelings, but you are holding a silent trump card.
The hidden evidence.
Yes. The police know a piece of evidence that they aren't telling her about yet. They know that before Amanda ever arrived at that Walgreens parking lot, she gave her oldest son all of her cash and her debit card.
That specific action is the turning point of the entire case.
Elevate the legal analysis for us here. Why does giving away a piece of plastic change everything? How does that elevate this from a tragic, spontaneous loss of control to something much darker?
It comes down to a legal concept called mens rea, which translates to the guilty mind.
Okay.
If we look at the legal distinction between second-degree murder, which is often thought of as a crime of passion, like a spontaneous reaction in the heat of the moment, and first-degree murder, the defining line is premeditation.
First-degree murder is planned out.
Exactly. It's a calculated execution. When someone gives away their assets, their cash, their debit card to their child right before going to a custody exchange, that is the ultimate physical proof of mens rea.
Because it proves she engaged in a cost-benefit analysis before she ever pulled the trigger.
Exactly. It shows profound premeditation. I mean, you don't give away your means of survival if you plan on going grocery shopping later that afternoon.
Right.
You do it when you know you are about to do something irreversible. It proves Amanda knew, before she even got in her car, that she wasn't coming back home.
So, with the psychological groundwork of her resentment laid bare and the hidden knowledge of her premeditation in their back pocket, the detectives zero in on the physical evidence to trap her in a lie.
Now they move to the weapon.
Yes, they focus the conversation on the murder weapon itself.
This is the phase where the alibi completely unravels. They ask her where she got the gun.
And her story is just all over the place. She claims she bought the gun at a pawn shop strictly for protection.
Right.
Her specific claim is that she was being harassed in her neighborhood because she is white, and she says she made multiple police reports about it. But when the detectives ask her where she actually keeps the gun on a daily basis, the story just fractures.
Because a truthful memory is usually linear and consistent. A fabricated memory, on the other hand, requires constant cognitive maintenance.
Wait, I'm genuinely confused here. If she is giving them a dozen different chaotic answers about where the gun is kept, why wouldn't the detective just stop her immediately and point out she's lying? Why keep politely nodding while she makes things up?
Because early confrontation makes suspects shut down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If a detective yells "gotcha" at the first lie, the suspect will just stop talking and ask for a lawyer.
Makes sense.
The psychological mechanism here is to let the suspect lock themselves into a massive, intricate timeline that is completely disprovable. You want them to weave a web so tangled they can't remember their own lies.
It's like a leaky boat. She's frantic. She tells the cops she sleeps with the ammunition, but not the gun. And the detective says casually, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Right, gently pointing out the flaw.
So she frantically plugs that hole by saying, well, sometimes it's in the trunk, sometimes it's under her pillow, sometimes her whole purse is under her pillow, sometimes it's on her person.
It's exhausting just listening to it.
But she insists she never keeps the magazines loaded in the gun.
Because she is desperately trying to maintain the illusion that the gun was just an inert, harmless object in her life, you know? Not a tool she was actively preparing to use against her ex-boyfriend.
But the detective just keeps politely letting her talk, just letting the boat fill with water. He asks about the night before and the morning of the shooting. And under the gentle pressure of his timeline, she realizes she has a massive logistical problem.
The loaded magazine.
Exactly. If she never keeps it loaded, how did it miraculously get loaded in the parking lot?
She has to invent a reason.
So she admits she took the gun out of the trunk and loaded the magazine either the night before or maybe she did it at a CVS right before the shooting.
Which proves she prepared the weapon before the confrontation, again, cementing the premeditation.
But her excuse for why she loaded it is just wild. She tells the detective that she loaded it because she planned to go out to the country to shoot it for the very first time.
On Christmas Day.
Yes. Right around the exact time she was supposed to do a tense custody exchange.
It defies all logic. And this is the moment where the detective decides he has gathered enough rope. He drops the polite investigative persona and confronts the sheer absurdity of her lie head-on.
I have to read the quote because it is just a devastating reality check. The detective stops her and says, "If I had $1 for every time someone who was in a shooting told me they were going to go shoot it in the woods, you just so happened to shoot 2 people today. That's not believable."
What is fascinating here is the visible psychological shift. This specific moment is the exact second the mental wall crumbles.
You can almost see it happening.
You really can. You can almost see the gears lock up in her head. She realizes that this entire time, the interrogation wasn't a conversation where she was convincing them of her innocence. It was a trap she walked herself right into.
She frantically tries to backtrack. She says she got to a CVS, panicked, recorded a video of the Walgreens, got scared, threw her car in reverse. She's throwing every excuse she has left at the wall.
Just pure desperation.
But the detective just calmly says, "You see me on video. I want to hear from you, though." And then she says the magic words.
I think I'm done talking to you.
The interview effectively ends. She knows her leaky boat has completely sunk.
And the aftermath of this realization plays out exactly as the physical evidence dictates. Amanda was charged with first-degree murder for the death of Anna Terrell.
And attempted first-degree murder for Thomas Williams.
Yeah. And 5 counts of child neglect for the extreme danger she put her kids in during the shooting and the subsequent high-speed chase.
Faced with the overwhelming evidence, the video footage, the pre-planning with a debit card, the complete unraveling of her own statements, Amanda realized she could not win at trial.
She had nowhere to go.
So she took a plea deal to avoid a life sentence, and she received a 40-year sentence in Florida State Prison.
It's a stark look at the fragility of human rationalization.
It really is.
It shows how deeply individuals can convince themselves that they are the victim, that their violence is somehow justified, right up until the very moment reality is reflected back at them by skilled investigators.
It's incredible how someone can build an entire reality around their own victimhood, completely blind to the devastation they're causing to everyone around them.
And that devastation is vast.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, to take away from this deep dive. Throughout this case, we've talked about the physical chaos, the innocent bystanders like the couple in the truck, and the intricate chess match in the interrogation room.
The adults in the situation.
Right. But think about those 5 children in the back seat of Amanda's car.
Yes. They survived the high-speed chase physically unharmed. But the psychological toll is immeasurable.
Exactly. What does it mean for a child's worldview to be sitting in a car on Christmas Day in a completely mundane Walgreens parking lot and to witness the ultimate betrayal of safety?
It's heartbreaking to even imagine.
To watch the one person in the world who is supposed to protect them turn into the source of unimaginable violence. A child's worldview is like a compass. It points to their parents as true north for safety and security.
Right.
When the parent becomes the source of lethal violence, the compass doesn't just point the wrong way. The magnetic field itself is destroyed. How does a family even begin to process that level of invisible collateral damage? For those kids, the credits don't just roll. They have to live with the aftermath.